So, hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman. I'm Simon Lillycrap, and previewing the Croatia game with me today is none other than England legend Stuart Pearce. How are you doing, Stuart, this morning?
Really well, thank you. Really well.
Well, it's getting to the exciting time of the tournament, is it? Obviously, you've got first-hand experience. How does it feel being part of an England camp in the days before the first match?
I think this week leading up to it is quite a nervous one for the players, to be fair. From a physical point of view, they've had a long season. So as a manager, you're looking to keep them fresh mentally. The physical side of it, just fine-tuning in many ways. You won't need to do much physically with them. And it's just outlining exactly what's needed of them going into our game on Sunday. Gareth obviously would have took one or two things out of the games, the two friendlies that we've had. And it's just looking at the players and seeing which ones look as though they've got a bit of form about them, a bit of confidence. And really what you want as a manager is to win that first game. And a lot of the pressures of group football diminish slightly.
And obviously, it's Croatia up first. Not an easy game by any means. We lost to them in the World Cup semi-final. Do you think there'll be any thoughts of revenge for Southgate or the players who were involved in that game?
Put it this way: they'll be aware that last time out in the big sort of head-to-head we had in the World Cup, we were disappointed in a game that, to be fair, early stages of the game, we looked in reasonable control of the game as well. So that will be a frustration. I don't think they're as strong as they were 2 years ago as a team. I have probably got more attacking options this time round than we did 2 years ago. So in some ways, I think we might be slightly stronger, certainly at the front end of the team. Maybe the question mark would be how strong we are at the back half of the team, and that's the question for me.
And obviously we had those two warm-up games, two 1-0 wins. What do you think we can take from those two games?
If I'm being quite honest with you, very little in regard. The performances weren't great. They were workmanlike, let's say, and understandable for games leading right onto a tournament. It was a mix and match of a team in many ways. The Champions League players were missing, the United players were missing. But I think certain individuals done themselves no harm. Yeah, I think Ben White probably got himself included in the squad for one. Sam Johnston was very good in goal, and Gareth will have no doubts about putting him in if he decides in his performance. Jude Bellingham, I thought, in the appearances that he showed, looked very decent. And there's one or two players within that I think sent a message to Gareth and said, look, if I'm in your starting lineup, you can trust me. And if I'm not, I just might contribute going forward and be a good option going forward, if you like.
Yeah, for sure. And one talking point that nobody really wants to be a talking point, but definitely will be a talking point at Wembley on Sunday is the taking of the knee and the booing around that. You've worked closely with a few of the England players. What's your take on that whole situation?
Well, I think, firstly, I've got to say, I think Gareth and the squad have handled themselves in a brilliant manner. I really do. I think, Gareth's open letter that he penned this week to fans was a very well thought out scenario to do, and rightly so from him. As you say, you just hope come Sunday there's a respect in the stadium that why the players are doing it, if they choose to do it. And listen, it's for a right cause and the right good. So the bottom line is I think the players and the manager have handled themselves very, very well in this whole scenario. And listen, people are in the stadium, and I've been in stadiums. I've been in the last two stadiums. It was booed, and we don't rightly agree with it. But the bottom line is, do people have an option to do and say what they want? Yes, they do. That's their opinion. But I think the overriding thing for me, Simon, is how the players and the manager have conducted themselves for England. And I think that they've come out of this with great credit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think Southgate in particular has been brilliant on that issue. Onto the football and the tactics of the football. I think it looks like we can presume Harry Maguire definitely won't be fit for this first game. So who do you think should start in that defence? And should it be a back three or a back four for the Croatia game?
I've got to say, I think England can play a 3 or a 4 quite seamlessly. I don't think that's the problem. what I would say is they've only played a back four in the last two games, so I'll be a little bit surprised if he changed to a three to start this game. For me, I think it'll be Pickford in goal. I think Walker will play right back in a back four. Stones, probably Mings, and I would say Shaw. That will be my back four, I think, what I've seen. There's not much to choose between Shaw and Chilwell, that is for sure. I think there's great options there, but Shaw would just edge it for me. Stones definitely would take a place. I think Tyrone Mings has probably put one or two question marks about his own performances by these two friendlies, whilst I name one or two players that have done particularly well in the recent friendlies. He's one that I don't think has played particularly well. So I don't know whether there's a question mark, but the options are limited for Gareth with Maguire being out injured. But that will be my goalkeeper and back four.
And if we're looking at Mings, it's either Tyrone Mings, Connor Cody, or Ben White, really, isn't it, in the centre? And I think Mings is the most similar to Maguire in that sense, and he plays on that left-hand side.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the natural swap and the natural balance. That's why I'd probably go with him. His form wouldn't suggest that he would have too much back in that respect, but certainly the natural balance that he would give with the left-sidedness is definitely the reason I would probably edge that way. And the other side of that is if you're going with somebody like Ben White, I wouldn't, he's done well enough certainly in league football this year, but it's quite a gamble to put him in his second cap in a game of this magnitude.
Yeah, I agree. From not making the initial 26-man squad, it would be quite something if he started the first game. So I think that's probably unlikely. Moving forward into midfield and attack, obviously there's an array of options for Southgate to choose from, an embarrassment of riches up front. Where would you go from there in midfield and attack? Well,
I would bear in mind that arguably, and only arguably, this might be the toughest game on paper. And it's a game that, as I'm acutely aware of in tournament football, you cannot lose the first game. It puts your team under a lot of pressure if you do. So do you pick a team that's a little bit cautious, or do you go after the opposition? Now, my mentality would be this. With one or two of our defence, I would probably err on making sure we got a good defensive shield in front of them to help them out. I think we've got two fullbacks that are happy to gallop on and go forward, so they would offer more attacking mindedness. For me, I would play Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips in front of the central defenders. I thought in March when they played together, they played very well together. They complemented each other, even though they're a similar type of player in positionally. That's where I would go. I'd play those two. Certainly, I would play Mason Mount. I think he's a non-negotiable first pick. And then beyond him is Harry Kane playing up front. That's a given for everybody. I think without him, we really lack that world-class bit of punch and an individual that ties it all together. And on the flanks, that's probably where there is so many options for England, which is a fantastic thing. And I don't think it's really crucial who starts the game. I think it's probably more important if Gareth gets his substitutions right in the flow of the game. So, but I would start with Foden and Sterling either side. That would be my starting lineup, I think. Yeah. There's the odd question mark about Sterling and his form, but listen, he's been pretty solid for England over a number of years, and he's a big game player. He's used to the big games now. Foden, same again. He's used to playing for City now. He's a regular in their lineup. They will be the two I'd start with. But you've got Grealish to come in. You've got Sancho. You've got Rashford. You've got a lot of options, and I think it's interchangeable almost. Yeah, I agree with you. And also the thing about Grealish, I think everyone would like to see him definitely get some game time. There'll be a lot of calls for him to start on Sunday. But if England are in front in the game, go 1-0 up, he'd be the perfect player to bring off the bench and draw those fouls and waste a bit of time, wouldn't he? Yeah, he certainly would. I'm still of the opinion, looking at his form at Aston Villa at the end of the season and probably these last two friendlies that we've just played, I still think he's not there 100% at the moment. He would normally zip away from players, and he's just getting caught a little bit. And I just think as the week's training will help him again, And I just think him and probably Marcus Rashford as well were just probably 5% short of it. And that will be the reason. I think bringing them off the bench to contribute and get their fitness and form back, I think will help them.
For sure. And 3 years ago in the World Cup, we had a dramatic opening game, didn't we, with that last gasp Harry Kane goal against Tunisia. How do you see this game panning out?
Listen, you've seen it many, many times with England. The first game of the tournaments are always nervous affairs. I'll be very surprised whether it's a very open game. It's going to be very hot as well in the stadium. I think they're predicting 27 degrees in London on Sunday, at 2:00 kickoff. So I think the tempo of the game will be a little bit conservative, let's say. I think it's going to be a nip and tuck game. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a low-scoring draw or the odd, 1-0 to England type victory. I'd be delighted if we keep a clean sheet, because I think in this tournament that might hinge on our chances of going through certainly the group stages and knockout round if we can be tight defensively.
Yeah, in the situation where it might not be the worst outcome if we finish second in the group, definitely not losing the first game is the most important thing, I think. Would you agree with that?
100%. As I say, there'll be a nervousness about the group as well. I can't remember in my living history, certainly tournaments that I've been involved in, where the team have actually played particularly well in the first game and got a desired result in the first game. It's always been a very nervous affair, as the last World Cup game that you mentioned bore out. So for Gareth, it'll be a case of however we have to do it, if we can get 3 points, and it takes some of the pressure off the group of players, So all I want really is the players to go out, enjoy themselves, and show form and confidence and togetherness that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Definitely. And let's finish this Croatia preview with your score prediction, please, Stuart.
I'm going to go for an England victory by the odd goal. So I'm going 1-0, or as history is showing that we can see chances. So probably 2-1. 2-1 will be my victory.
You'll go 2-1. I think I'll say 1-1 on this, and I'll be happy with a point from the opening game. Thanks very much for joining us, Stuart. And on the Sportsman, we'll also be previewing with Stuart Pearce the Scotland game and the Czech Republic game. So make sure you stick around to check those out. Thanks very much, Stuart. That was perfect.
Cheers, Simon.